Welcome back to the Become Your Own Muse podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Lowy. Today I want to do kind of a follow-up episode from last week where we talked about feedback. And a discussion I've been having a lot lately with people is how to not be a mediocre employee. Because I think for a lot of people, they're just average. They're showing up average in their job. They're showing up mediocre, and then they're expecting to be promoted. They're expecting to have pay raises. They're expecting to have a higher income. And it's like, it makes sense why, when you get your salary or you get your paycheck biweekly, that you're frustrated. Why you feel like everyone else is rising above you and it feels like everyone around you is getting the promotions, getting the raises, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? So I want to just point out 5 things that we need to be aware of, 5 tips for how to make sure you're not a mediocre employee and how to make sure that you're at the forefront of your boss's mind when it comes time to step into leadership roles, when higher level opportunities come up, when it comes time to have a promotion or a raise. Like, you're the obvious choice, right? It's always been really easy for me to get promoted in jobs just because of what I'm going to talk about today, just because of the work I've done on building my emotional intelligence skills. And I truthfully believe those who are emotionally intelligent in the workplace, they just naturally stand out. It's like it just happens because you are so grounded, you're so secure. The way you interact with other people, the way you receive feedback is just from such a neutral place that it's so obvious the people who are emotionally intelligent in the workplace versus aren't. And those are the people who make more money. Those are the people who are the ones who are first thought of when new opportunities come up. And the first tip is, I want you to volunteer to take the lead on things that feel uncomfortable. And I think for most people, they just show up, they do their job, they clock out, and then they're done. And there's no going above and beyond. There's no showcasing any interest you have in developing your skills and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I've been a manager for many years, so I know what I'm looking for when I'm looking at people working who report into me, who are looking to grow in their career, who are looking to step into more leadership roles, is you have to prove that you can handle the stress. You have to prove that you can handle the discomfort. You have to prove that you're not just there to clock in and clock out and then leave and not try to refine your skills, not to try to become a better leader, a better people manager, whatever it is. So you have to showcase, hey, I want to take the lead on things. Hey, this is probably a little out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to do it. Because when you are put into a new role, you're going to be pushed out of your comfort zone, right? You might have more challenging projects. You may have more challenging clients that you work on. You may now have people that report into you. You have to prove that you can act in the role before you actually go into the role. Like, I would never promote someone who didn't showcase to me that they're already acting in the role that I want to bring them into. So whether it's volunteering for work projects, right? There was a project the other day that me and my manager were working on together, and I said to her, "Hey, I actually want to take the lead on this project because I want to see how well I can manage this. Can you actually come in as a secondary and give me feedback, but I'm actually going to lead this project?" Right? That shows initiative. That shows that I want to learn. Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable, it's a little scary, but she's seen that I'm taking initiative and I want to step into a leadership role. I want to get to the place where I'm leading these by myself, that I'm eventually in her role, right? So how often can you raise your hand, volunteer, and say, "Hey, I actually want to take the lead on this. Hey, I saw that this client is needing XYZ. Can I actually do this?" Right? So where can you find pockets of opportunity to really showcase, I'm ready to take on this next position, instead of just like sitting there and doing your job and doing the same thing you do every other day and then expecting something different. And maybe it's not even client work. Maybe it's even just within the company itself. Something that I did this past week is I'm volunteering to give an emotional intelligence training in the workplace for my entire company, right? I didn't have to do that. We just do these trainings every other week. And I decided, hey, this is a skill that I'm really good at. This is going to show initiative. This is going to show that I care and that I truthfully believe emotional intelligence is a skill that allows people to be really successful in their roles. And I care about the company and I care about the people I work with to strengthen their emotional intelligence. I'm going to volunteer to give an hour-long training to the entire company about how to be more emotionally intelligent. So what is it that you can do, that you can go above and beyond to showcase you're not just there to clock in and clock out? You actually want to learn. You want to build your skills. You want to strengthen your leadership. You need to show them that you are okay being uncomfortable, that you're okay being stressed, and that you can handle it really well. Tip number 2 is asking for feedback outside of your normal one-on-ones, because this shows your relationship to feedback. it shows that you do really well getting feedback from other people. The number one skill, and this goes back to our last episode, is the number one skill that I truthfully believe that will set you apart versus other people is your ability to receive feedback and your relationship with feedback and how much you can depersonalize it. How much you can go, okay, I didn't deliver on XYZ. How can I make it even better? It doesn't mean I am like, okay, so let's use an example of, hey, I think you could have been a little bit more confident in the way you presented that to the client. You were a little passive. If I got that feedback, I'm not going, oh, that means I'm not confident, so I'm taking it as a personal attack. I'm going, what can I do to build the skill of confidence when presenting a client deck? See, I'm depersonalizing it. I'm saying not me as a person, but the skill of building confidence so that I can show up better. A, prove that I'm listening to my manager's feedback, but B, that I'm taking action. I actually care. And I'm like, I want to see what I need to do to get better. The more that you are open to receiving feedback, you don't meet it with reactivity. You don't meet it with like, oh, I received this feedback from my boss, and now I'm going to have this like chip on my shoulder in meetings. And when she gives me another piece of feedback, I'm just going to like, I'm going to sigh. The more that you can be an actual mature employee, disconnect yourself from the feedback and tying that to your self-worth, the more it's going to showcase to your manager, hey, they actually receive feedback really well. So what's going to happen for that manager is they're going to start giving it to you more frequently. And what a privilege it is that someone is able to give you feedback frequently, right? Your manager or anyone else above you, or even anyone on your team, even if they're lateral to you, if they feel really comfortable giving you feedback, guess what that means? You're going to start getting it from all different angles. And guess who's going to start growing really, really quickly? You. Because the biggest opportunities for growth are mainly what we cannot see and that we can get from other people, right? Because we only know what we know in our little bubble. So the more that we have people coming in and being like, hey, actually, when I was in this position last year, I did it like this. Hey, if I was running this training, this is how I would do it. If I was presenting this, this is how I would tweak this a little bit, given my experience, given my skill sets. And now you're getting exposed to all this information because you were open to receiving feedback. You showed the people around you that you're really receptive to it. And that's going to help you grow tremendously, right? Look at it as an opportunity of, wow, how much feedback can I get from other people? Normalize it outside of your one-on-ones. Ask your manager frequently. Ask your peers frequently. Start to really build that like really powerful relationship with feedback so that you're seeing it as an opportunity and a privilege instead of a personal attack. Tip number 3 is start tracking your wins against your goals. And I know this like seems obvious, but over time, when I'm working with clients, I realize that they don't actually do this. When you go in and you decide what your goals are, whether it's you actually talking to your manager and telling them about this, or you have your own goals of, hey, I want to get promoted to this role. Hey, I want to achieve this. I want to get recognized for this. Over time, I want you to start tracking against those goals. So what I always do is I will have a document up and I will have it by categories of, displayed leadership, displayed good team communication, displayed good taking the lead with a client project, whatever it is, the categories I have. And I will put in there examples all the time of times that I demonstrated this. And the reason I'm saying this is because you need to go to your manager and advocate for yourself. A lot of times we think like, oh, I'm just going to sit back. When it's time for me to get promoted, when it's time for me to get a raise, my manager will tell me. They will speak up. They will let me know. I can't even tell you how many times I have had to go to ask for my own promotion, for my own raise, because as much as you like to think that your company wants to reward you, at the end of the day, they're looking at their bottom line. You need to advocate for yourself. You need to prove to them, hey, this is what I've done. This is how I've worked towards my goals. This is what I've accomplished. This is what I've brought in and contributed to the company, to the team, to the client. And this is why I believe that I deserve a raise. And it's really interesting because a lot of people just rely on their manager or their boss to do that for them. And I'm like, if you're not advocating for yourself, why should your boss advocate for you? Like there should be no one who should advocate for me more than myself. So the moment that I'm relying on someone else, now that becomes out of my control. And that's where we start to unconsciously develop this like lack of self-trust in ourselves, lack of self-belief, because we're relying on something outside of us to advance us in our career towards our goals. The moment you shift that, and the moment that you start becoming responsible for your goals and your success, you start having a lot more self-trust. You have a lot more self-belief. You have built that confidence, because confidence equals control at the end of the day. When you feel in control of your career, your success and your happiness and your confidence, it's going to skyrocket. So make sure you're tracking and doing a diligent job of this. And because it's going to come time where you're going to be a year and you're going to be 2 years and whatever, and it's going to feel, okay, you know, I am ready for a raise. I deserve this. I'm ready for a promotion. I'm going to now come and I'm going to advocate for myself. And that also, it just shows too, not just, it doesn't just allow you to be in control of your success, but it also shows your manager that you are a leader, that you advocate for yourself, that you're going to advocate for other people, right? So it just really shows initiative, and it's going to be really well received by your managers and your bosses. Tip number 4, do not shit talk, complain, gossip about the client or any other team members in meetings, on calls, whatever it is. Keep that to absolute minimum, if at all. You will never hear me complain about a client, a team member, my boss. You will never hear me gossiping. I will not participate in that low frequency behavior. If I'm in a meeting where someone is gossiping about someone else, I will stay very neutral and I will just go, okay. Or like, I don't have anything to contribute to that. Or I will switch the conversation around and be like, okay, what's the solution here? The more that you complain about other people around you, the client, the company, your boss, whatever it is, that's very low frequency behavior. Complaining, gossiping, being negative, it's very low frequency behavior. And everything is an energy, right? So you're going to attract and you're going to showcase to people, this is the frequency that I operate at. I'm a gossiper. I'm a complainer. I am not someone who is solution focused. I'm very emotionally charged, right? Something happens and you don't have control of your emotions because you feel the need to gossip about it. You feel the need to like emotionally dump onto other people. You feel the need to talk about it. Or B, you aren't being accountable for your results. If you so easily, if something doesn't work out or a client presentation didn't go as well as planned, and your immediate reaction is to blame the client, oh, my team didn't do this, oh, I didn't get the right time, oh, my boss didn't tell me what to do, oh, I didn't, and you start bitching about it, what you're doing is you are not being accountable for your results. You are putting the blame on somewhere, something else, someone else, so that you don't have to take accountability for it. If there is a presentation that didn't go as planned, how can we do that better next time? Instead of, who can we blame for this? And I promise you, the amount of people that operate in this low frequency behavior, especially in the workplace, if you do not participate, you will stand out against everyone. I have gotten this feedback so much that I am so grounded, I am so unreactive, and I feel very safe, and I'm very solution focused because of this exact thing, right? People can bitch to me, people can complain to me, people can be negative. I will not participate in that. A, because I've evolved past that frequency. I don't really do that in my normal day-to-day life. And B, every time you complain, every time you bitch, every time you try to blame someone else, it just shows your lack of accountability for yourself. Whether it's like very obvious or not, unconsciously, the people that you're complaining to, whether it's your boss, whether it's your peers, whether it's someone below you, it shows your lack of accountability. It shows your lack of leadership. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to promote someone. I'm going to hire someone. I'm going to give someone a raise who truly can say, what was my role in this? How can we find a solution here? Because the people who are finding solutions are 10 steps ahead of the people who are still complaining about the problem, right? There will be someone who's complaining about, oh, the client didn't say this. I didn't get the directions I need. Oh, I didn't have enough time, right? There's someone who's going to be complaining about that for 2 days. And then the person who's not is already on to the next project. They've already found the solution and they're on their way. Who do you think is going to get promoted when it comes down to it? Person A or person B, right? So anytime you can, be very cognizant of this. Do not talk shit, gossip, be negative to people in the workplace. You don't have to be snappy towards someone else if they are to you. Just stay very neutral. Because the more that you just stay neutral, and this is just in general in life, the more that someone is coming with a very low frequency behavior and they're coming to bitch and complain and gossip and, oh, poor me, in victim mode, the more that you just sit there and do not entertain it and you just stay very neutral, what's going to happen is you're going to act as a mirror for people. That frequency is going to bounce off of you because you're not partaking in it, and they're going to see it, and it's going to go back to them, and they're going to feel the frequency, and they're going to either not talk about it anymore, or they're going to go somewhere else to bitch about it, right? Because you're showcasing to people, this isn't what I operate in. I don't participate in this kind of conversation. So over time, they learn to just not bring it to you, okay? And you get a reputation for being someone who doesn't participate in that, and someone who's a very solution-focused mindset. Number 5 is taking radical accountability for yourself, for your results, for your mindsets in your business, your performance, using honesty and self-awareness. And this is something that I think you have to start to become really emotionally intelligent to be able to do this, because you have to be very self-aware, and you have to feel really comfortable saying really honest and vulnerable things. And this is what happens when you do a lot of emotional intelligence work. But being able to feel a certain thing or create a story about something that is happening in your workplace, and then you actually, instead of, and it's kind of similar to the last tip I just talked about, instead of blaming someone else, you take accountability for how you feel, and then you find a solution for that. I'll give you a perfect example of this. So I was on a client recently, and I got brought in, and the rest of the team had been on this client for a year. So I was the newbie coming in, and I was the one who was overseeing all the marketing strategy on this client. And I started, because I was the new person, I started to create this story of, wow, the rest of this team has been here since the beginning. They know this client better than me. Any recommendations that I give or my input, they're going to dismiss it because they're going to think they know better than me because they've been on this team for a year. So I started to recognize the story I was creating, because I am very self-aware because I've done a lot of emotional intelligence work. And I started to notice that when I would come to these meetings with this team, I would be a little bit reactive. I'd be a little bit defensive. And I caught that, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Instead of allowing this story to continue playing out and continue being true, I'm going to invalidate it. I'm going to take accountability that this is the story I'm creating, and I'm going to decide to not play into the story anymore. And I'm going to decide that this is the new story moving forward. So what I actually did is, and you can either do this by yourself or you can do this with your manager. So I actually went to my manager and I said to her, hey, I just want to let you in on and I'm going to take accountability for something. This is a story I'm creating about this team. And I kind of explained to her exactly what I just said to you. And I want you to help me invalidate this. I want you to be aware of this behavior with me. And I want you to help me move past this so that I can feel really comfortable on this team. Right? That's a really vulnerable thing to say. That's a really honest thing to say, to take accountability for how you're feeling. But see, because I do this frequently with my manager, she's very receptive to it. She understands how self-aware I am. She understands, hey, look at this. You're taking accountability for a story you're creating and you want to move past it. Like, how cool is that you have the self-awareness to do that? You have the vulnerability and the trust to be able to bring it to me, and the security in who you are as a person, that you can bring it to me. And then we can work to co-create a better environment together. And now I've moved past that, right? In that moment, I felt, hey, I actually need your help here. So the more that you can kind of create that dynamic with the people around you and be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And it's not to put blame onto that team or that person, whoever it is, for making you feel that way. It's taking accountability for yourself. It's not you made me feel like this. It's I'm creating a story for myself based on this, right? You're taking accountability for it. You're not going, oh, that person dismissed my comment, so now I'm feeling like they don't value my opinion. It's, hey, I am creating this story because they've been on this account for a year and I feel a little insecure about it. How do we fix this? Right? That's a huge, you can see the different texture there. It's so much different. So it's shifting to have just this like radical responsibility for your life, for how you're feeling, and being really open and creating that dynamic with the people around you so that you become very conscious and self-aware human beings who can communicate that kind of stuff. And I promise you, when you hit all 5 of these things, you're going to be someone who stands out against everyone around you. Since I've been working on emotional intelligence and I become someone who's built the skill of emotional intelligence, I have always been someone now who just stands out in my career. I'm always the one who's promoted very quickly. I'm always in the forefront of my bosses or even higher than them's mind. when new client work comes up, when new opportunities come up. It's because I'm not a mediocre employee. And to be honest with you, everyone is mediocre nowadays. It's so easy to not be mediocre. So many people don't do these 5 simple things. Like, these are just simple things that I'm talking about. So many people don't do this. So if you actually put the work in and you start to do these things, you're going to stand out against the rest. I promise you that. Let me know what you took away from this episode. Let me know what you're going to start working on, what you think maybe you already are working on, maybe you could get better at. I'd love to hear it over on Instagram at Danielle Marie Lowy, and I will talk to you guys soon.